Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in to Founder Series again. We are back for another episode, and let me talk to you about this life update now. It has been one of the craziest seasons where just at this time in my life, everything starts to happen at once. So all of our kids' stuff, I told you that we have everyone back, plus one, a fiance. So we've got 9 people living here. We are doing remodeling of our entire kitchen island because I came to realize that as the kids are growing, you thought you get to get rid of some people out of your house. Well, no, that is not true. Because when they all come back, you're just like, oh, we don't have enough room. So the kitchen island is getting bigger, more cupboard space. So if you hear any screwing or dinging or donging or hammering, that might be why. In addition to that, we had an engagement party last weekend, which was phenomenal. And my daughter's fiance's mom was amazing. Their whole family is just incredible. We had so much fun and it was just such awesome energy. So, we have those milestones occurring, but I still have one that started college this week. Our 2 high schoolers started school last week, and we have then our little 3rd grader who is riding the bus for the first time. And so didn't make his bus, but at least was with my daughter. So he went to school an hour late because he took the wrong bus. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I can't right now. But not just that, but the bus didn't come last week with the high schoolers one day, then it was late the next day, and then we're legitimately have called the bus people 20 times. I'm sure they're just like, who are these crazy people that have never ridden the bus, and why did you start now? I don't know. I ridden the bus my whole life. I didn't think it was that complicated, but it is. So then, that's personal home stuff. But on top of that, too, you're starting to get back into homework and sports on top of that, and practices and book covers. And do we have book covers? Do we do the old paper bag book covers, or do we have to go get book covers? And then traveling is coming onto the horizon. September, October is such big midlife months with perimenopause awareness in September, and then menopause awareness in October. So a lot of travel and speaking and podcasting and webinar events, which I'm so excited about and so grateful for. But just navigating those and making sure childcare, that my spouse is set up and ready to go, and that all the things can occur when mom's not home, because legitimately all hell breaks loose inevitably when I'm not there. Or maybe I just think that it does, and they're just like, yeah, mom's away, I'm partying. I don't know. But it's always a little bit of chaos. When you have this many kids, you have a regiment. Otherwise they'll eat you alive. Moms carry it all for sure. So, and I'm okay with some of the, hey, you figure it out. I don't need to control those things. You figure it out. You have to do this. But what I want to see when I come home is everything the way it is, like I left. I don't even care if you all scrambled that hour before I got home to make everything look like it was all organized. Just let me believe that it was. So, So listen, if you're in the thick of it too, you're not alone at all. So today I'm going to share some reflections on capacity in busy seasons. We'll spotlight Perimenopause Awareness Month, and we'll unpack the real impact of untreated symptoms. When I am traveling and I'm trying to figure out schedules, honestly, we have a shared note in our notes on our phones, and that's usually how I kind of navigate. We'll go through either the whole weekend if I'm just gone for a weekend. Very rarely am I gone for more than 3 days. The Menopause Society meeting coming up, that is Tuesday night through a Saturday or Sunday. But my oldest daughter is actually coming with me, so I'm excited about that. But I am typically okay, what is going on this weekend? What needs to be done? And it's a list that I will collaborate with everybody that has phones in our house. And so that way they all know, where someone needs to be, where someone needs to go, pickups, drop-offs, what homework needs to be done, all of the things that way. I'm also, when I'm at my other insurance-based practice, I'm right next to the high school. So those kids can usually come over to my office. The little one's getting off on the bus and he is home getting his homework ready. My other kids are home kind of helping navigate him, and, he checks in with me, and so there's just kind of this well-oiled machine. Everybody is still doing their dinners. Everyone is still doing their laundry days. For the most part, I did see some laundry like piling up in my 14-year-old's bathroom and wet towels on the floor, which can I just like tangent the wet towel on the floor thing? What is that? What is that? And why do guys almost always take their wet towel off and it just lands where it may land? The floor, the bed. It is a wet towel. Do you just like all of a sudden not see what is around you? Because that clearly that's what the 14-year-old, but even my 16-year-old son, I've caught him twice. I'm like, dude, put your drawers on in the bathroom and then hang up the towel. Don't put the towel into your bedroom if you cannot make it find its way back to the bathroom to hang up. I can't. Yeah, well, my 14 and my 16-year-old still can't hang it up. I mean, my husband still can't hang it up. Like what is that? Don't you want dry towel? The hardest part in my family right now is that is honestly the transition. I felt like summer went so fast. They're like, is it time to go back to school? I think they're really having a hard time. They're having fun with it, but the turn down time, like, okay, 7:30 shower for the littlest, my daughter, honestly, 8:30, I'm like, you got to shower because you have to go to bed because the bus comes legit at 6:26 in the morning. They have like an hour and a half bus ride, pretty much. So that's been the hardest part, I think, is like trying to get them back to bed. That's been tough for them. Navigating that has been difficult. So for me, it really is lists of things. And some days, like today, is just a very overwhelming day. I didn't sleep very well. I was trying a new mask on, which was really great. And then like ear plugs, but they were uncomfortable. So yeah, I'm a Wednesday for me today. I'm tired. So even I have those where you're just like, how can I focus? How can I reset? I think that there was just a lot going on. You went straight from this like big engagement party to like cleaning it up to then back to work to now home improvement project going on and school. And I don't feel like we recovered during the summer at all. I think when people think that working for yourself does mean that, you get to do your own hours and, your own days. But when you're starting, this journey, I mean, I'm working from the moment I get up at like, honestly, 5 o'clock in the morning because I'm either listening to podcasts, I'm checking emails as I'm working out, or my spouse and I are going over what's going to happen during the day until I go to bed at night. I am in my bed I honestly have had this neck issue because I have been on my computer too much and my phone too much. Legit, I've been really working on it, but I'm like miserable right now. That's from being at this computer. So now when I go to bed, I'm literally tucking my child in, snuggling with him. It's not time for us to like talk anymore. So I wanted him to like lay down. So I will like put my stuff on dim or put my ear pod in and just snuggle him and listen to some things. And then I need to go back and I need to get the blogs ready. I need to make sure that I answer all my private patients, messages and review their labs and some of them have prior auth stuff, their faxes I'm having issues with. So like I'm having issues right now with my lab coordinating with my electronic medical record and them talking to each other. So they're not sending like the right diagnosis codes. And so I was on with them last night. I like can't order some of my imaging tests right now because they're not talking. I think there was an upgrade. So I'm like going through that. Now I have to email them. So I'm doing all that stuff like after I've seen patients and after I get the kids organized. And then there is no time because now I have a lecture coming up. I need to make sure I have that. What am I going to talk about? Do I have the lecture ready? Do I have this webinar ready? And what am I going to talk about? Do I have these blogs ready to come out? The next newsletter, is that all ready for my person to get those things out? So it's funny because so lucky to have this like amazing brand manager and there was so much taken off my plate, but damn it, don't you know that I just like fill that plate right back up? Like, I'm just like, how was I doing this before when I was doing all my own social media and like reaching out to everybody? And you still have to like connect that way too. Like, they can do so much for you. And then you're like, oh, I have an idea. I want to kind of get that out because that still keeps like your authenticity with your community and still the checks and balances of like, okay, here's this organization. I know I have to touch base here. I can do that. There's that, like, do you want to take care of this? Does your social media, your brand manager take care of this? Do I need to take care of this? I'm okay with this, that, and the other thing. So there's just also like a lot of, just wheels that are turning and division of jobs. And I think I just fill up my own plate. I don't know. Maybe it just would have been like things weren't getting done. I'm not sure. Or I think maybe it's just the season. And it's the season of everything is ramping up. I always say that as a sports mom, I was like, our fall and our spring are legitimately insane. So it just is what it is, and you're constantly going. But let me tell you guys, this saw in COVID with all of my patients is, I'm going to call it like COVID neck. And it is COVID neck because we were all on our computers, our kids, ourselves. And so I was getting patients coming in, kids and adults coming in with horrific neck pain. And I am just like, it's from looking at your phone, it's from looking at your computer, all these things. So I'm going to say to you, you need to look at your phone like this. If you're in bed looking at your computer, it needs to be up like this or you should close it. You want to know when my neck felt the best was the engagement party because I did not open any of that stuff. Although I was dealing with like some major things on last Thursday, Friday, Saturday, in another job of mine with my colleagues in another, podcast that we have. And that was a lot to deal with. So maybe that is probably part of why I'm like just feeling this kind of, exhaustion today. I think there was just a lot of that emotional like upheaval. Like it was just, ripped out from underneath us. And there was a lot of things that we thought were happening didn't happen, and promises and not it was an eye opener. It was a lesson, big lesson learned, painful lesson. Yes. But as business owners, you have to be ready to be kicked in the teeth. And I felt like because this kind of happened not even a year ago, but like when I decided to kind of go out on my own, I just was like, man, why do I get surprised when people don't turn out to be the type of people that I thought that they were? I don't know why it surprises me, but dang it does every time. And there's always a lesson learned, like in business. So, the problem I think that for me, I'm always just like, I always had the side eye on people. Like, whereas like my spouse like believes everybody. He's just like, oh, we're best friends. And I'm just like, I'm always like this. I think during these experiences, as you are bringing up your own game, and I don't even know if I would call it success, but it's work. I feel like I've been lucky to be successful at the things that I've worked hard at in whatever amount of success that is. And I don't mean success has to be monetary, but as you are meeting these new goals and doing better at them, and when unfortunately you do have people along the way that reveal themselves as not what you had perceived or thought, and you do have to make disconnections. And those disconnections are difficult because it's a grieving process. You were just like, I thought this was a great either colleague, friendship, both, whatever that is, a trustworthy relationship. And when it turns out not to be that way, it's difficult. And you have to kind of like introvert for a little bit, really take that time to like heal. And sometimes it takes a little bit longer, but those lessons are definitely important lessons in business for sure, that those will mold you. I don't think that they should make you, spiteful, but you have to have a sense of like looking out on the outside and understanding that not everyone is trustworthy for sure. And that can be really difficult when that's not your personality. So those are some big things that I've learned, and some traits that I would hope that my children will understand because they're very trustworthy people as well. And I'm just like, you really need to watch your back and to have some common sense and some street sense. I always say when your spider instincts or your spidey instincts, like you got to listen to them because, but sometimes some people are really, really good and you don't get those spidey instincts until later, 3, 6 months, a year later. And then you're like, wait a second. I feel like humans have become so much easier to like mask their true intentions. And it's really difficult. And I don't know what that was, if it was just because I mean, and sometimes physicians do that anyway, physicians, lawyers, whatever, like when you're listening to things and you're like, if someone tells you something that you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they just said that. Like you can't say that to them. You have to take that in and listen. And I'm not talking about that part either. I'm talking about like, there are just hiding what their true intentions are. And I agree, like, the scamming, all of like the phone scamming, the money scam, all of those have gotten so much better. I've had them call me and for a second, I was like, almost did it. It does make it hard for telemedicine practices, that type of thing, because, they don't know. But I think that I still feel like I connect with my patients. I'm giving them that time. I think you could still be disloyal to them in the office just as easy as you can via video, for sure. I really truly believe that. I think that part, if you were just that type of person, it doesn't matter if you're behind a video or not, or in person with them, maybe your sense a little bit more of the way that they're examining you might change. I don't know. I think on social media you can really make yourself look as good and as sweet and caring as you want, and when in reality maybe you're not. But I think that went along with social media, even in person type stuff, which I think is also why word of mouth for my private practice. I love growing my private practice word of mouth. It's so hard to be patient to let your practice grow. But if you want having patients come to you via word of mouth, their friends' friends, that is such an amazing way to grow your practice, because they're coming in already trusting you because their friend has already seen you. Their friend loves what you do. They've saw the results. I can talk to them about the results. They're like, she's just awesome. Even when I built my family insurance based model practice, that a lot was families and their families and friends of their families. It's that whole community. There's so much to be said about building your practice word of mouth. And so I love it when I love all the new patients that end up being so neat. But when I have referrals from my own patients or people that I really know closely, that's the coolest part. And then they come into our community because I have a community. That's the truest way to, I think, really understand that who you're working with is who you're working with, because of the word of mouth of their friends that already see you and they can attest to how they're being treated, how they've been treated. So anyway, you have to be patient though, because word of mouth, I think, can take a little bit longer, definitely if you're virtual as well. And so, like, as I'm podcasting, I'm also making sure that my kids are going to practice. So, hashtag real life, people. So now we are going from juggling it all to the midlife minute. So we know that September is Perimenopause Awareness Month, and this is why it matters. We know that perimenopause affects every woman in some way, yet it is underrecognized. Every woman, of course, goes through menopause. We know that. Okay. Perimenopause, though, is that time around menopause. And it can be from several months to 3 to 7 years, up to 10 years, can start in your mid to late 30s or into your 40s. Some women breeze right through perimenopause and those symptoms. Some women have horrific perimenopause puzzle symptoms. And unfortunately, because of the age and because they're still having periods, if they haven't had, an ablation, IUD, or hysterectomy, those symptoms often get dismissed as stress, aging. You're doing all the kids. You've got 3 or 4 businesses and you are having new children. And this day and age, women are having babies in their late 30s and early 40s. And so they're postpartum and probably perimenopausal at the same time. I was one of those, and it was really difficult to navigate through that. So remember that there are 3 simple truths: that perimenopause is normal. It is a stage. We don't know how symptomatic or non-symptomatic you're going to be, but suffering through that is not necessary. That treatment options do exist. Lifestyle, you guys know I'm big on lifestyle, right? Nutrition, progesterone, estrogen, testosterone therapy, if you so choose, and concierge models, 100%. That time spent with your practitioner is time well spent, money well spent. It's an investment into your health and longevity, to optimize how you're feeling. And early awareness makes transition easier. This is really important. Even if you're afraid, like, is everything perimenopause? Like, I'm starting to hear that all the time, right? Is everything perimenopause? So what? Maybe it is and maybe it's not. And guess what? You will not get judged if you see me and ask me, I don't know if it's perimenopause or not. Okay, well, let's talk about it. And if it's not, okay, cool. Maybe it's something else. Maybe we're going to find a thyroid problem. Maybe we're going to find iron deficiency. maybe we're going to find that, yes, this probably is a little bit of peri, but really there's something else that's going on. Maybe we talk about your sexual desire and your intimacy. So it's okay if you're like, I'm not sure if it is. And don't be afraid for the eye roll of like, now everybody thinks everything's perimenopause. Well, guess what? Everyone used to think that everything was your thyroid too. And so until we talk about it and dive into it, it doesn't matter what they think as far as that goes. The big thing is ask the questions, start the conversations, and share the resources with your friends. Okay. So now let's hop into the lab and talk about perimenopause. We talked a lot about perimenopause as far as, what exactly it is. But when you pull that apart and we talk about in perimenopause, we have higher rates of depression and anxiety in these women. A lot of the studies have showed that 20 to 50% of women experience new or worsening mood symptoms during perimenopause. In particular, new onset or worsening anxiety, new onset or worsening depression. Women with no prior history of depression, for example, have a 2 to 3 times higher risk of developing first episode of major depressive disorder during perimenopause compared to premenopause. We've talked before about the SWAN study, the study of women's health across the nation. That cohort found that approximately 14 to 17% of perimenopausal women experience clinically significant depressive symptoms. Same with anxiety disorders. So general anxiety disorder, worsening anxiety, panic attack, often associated with palpitations, right? And often overlapping with sleep disturbances and vasomotor symptoms, that up to 30% of these women experience significant anxiety symptoms associated with those. So, what are those types of risk factors? Definitely a history of depression or anxiety. A lot of women who have that, but they've been stable, they will tell you, do have a higher risk in perimenopause of those things worsening. Life stressors, sleep disruption, and social factors can also significantly contribute to a higher risk of mood disorder in perimenopause. So what we also know is that mood disturbance will often peak in late perimenopause and may improve in postmenopause. So, but sometimes those early peris as well will start to notice that cyclically it'll get worse, but then it may get better after once their cycles start to behave themselves a little bit more. And then maybe 6 months, a year later, it'll happen again. So sometimes the early peris can be really hard to pick apart. And typically it is going to be that mid to late perimenopause. Those tend to get worse. But remember, every woman is different. Sometimes even though they're cycling regularly, their mood is it is been affected significantly. And that is what we tend to treat. Then on top of the anxiety and depression or the mood symptoms, these hormone fluctuations can also wreak havoc on your mental health as well. So brain fog, memory lapses, cognitive decline risk. And that is all happening because of those changes in the hormones, the up and downs of the hormones. And it's true. I mean, I can attest to that myself, that I had significant brain fog when starting to go into late perimenopause and skipping those cycles. So it's really important to start having those discussions because a lot of those women are embarrassed. They're not going to talk to you about it. They are afraid that they're going to lose their job. They will not take promotions. They will stop going into the workforce or they will step back from the workforce. They will decrease their working hours. They won't get up to speak because they are afraid that they're going to forget what they're going to say, that they can't put their sentences together very fluid. So they don't want to speak. They don't want to be on podcasts. They're, a little nervous about things. They're reading from their phone, which is fine. I legitimately, during this phase right now, it's the same exact way. Like I have to have my notes, I have to have my things because that's just part of my perimenopause, and I'm pretty darn optimal on my hormone therapy right now. So I'm hoping that once things completely settle down, that all of those things will start to come back and won't be so stressful because then that causes stress. And then the brain fog gets worse because you're anxious, you're stressed, you start sweating, and then you're like, oh my God, I can't remember what I was going to say. So those are real things that affect these women, this cognitive dysfunction that occurs because estrogen is going up, going down, or just completely going down and starting to decline. In addition to that, you have sleep loss, weight fluctuations, cardiovascular risk as well. So as that estrogen is declining. That increases your cardiovascular risk. Hot flashes and night sweats, we know, are directly related to increase in cardiovascular disease. Sleep loss increases your cortisol. Sleep, 100%. Lack of sleep increases your cardiovascular disease as well. That's very well documented. And then you have weight fluctuations because of a couple things. You're not sleeping, you're not exercising, you're not motivated, you're not eating well, but then you're also becoming more insulin resistance because of how estrogen and cortisol is high and how then glucose is being stored. You're losing muscle mass as you're aging, and that is being replaced by adipose tissue as well. So there's a lot of things, and we'll get more into that in some of the other in the labs, but it's not to be taken lightly. And then you start thinking about relationship strains on your marriage, your friendships, your work dynamics, because you're irritable, you're sleepy, you're tired, you don't have a libido because you're sleepy, you're tired. Then your spouse doesn't think that you love them. Your children are thinking that you're a monster. Your peri monster is coming out. Instead of being your peri godmother, you're a peri monster instead. So it's so difficult. Your friendship, you don't want to go out, right? Like there are times I just sit here and I'm just like, I don't want to go anywhere. Women don't want to go anywhere. They don't want to go out and have fun. They're social. They have out their social relationships, which we know is super important. It's also very, very important as we're aging. Our social environment becomes more and more important. So that old saying, and I think we probably have all thought that who have had a tough perimenopause. This whole quote of, she thought she was losing her mind, but it was hormonal shifts. This is true. I thought this. I have patients that tell me this. I just had a patient tell me this, and I think I actually like cried with her. She was like, "You saved my life. I thought I was losing my mind, losing myself, and I am so thankful that I found you." And I think I actually posted on a story about this because I was just so emotional after speaking with her that it gives me goosebumps now. Like, this is why I do these things, because these women really feel that they are losing themselves and losing their minds and are so embarrassed to talk. And so they're so grateful. So, once we support these women, and most of these things will improve their energy, their clarity, their brain fog, their relationships will improve. These symptoms are not just annoyances. They ripple into every part of life and every part of a woman's life, from themselves to their partners, to their children, to their work colleagues. So every part of life it does ripple down to. But what's important is that there are solutions. You hear it, then it makes you feel better. Like, I mean, the amount of women that tell me that the intrusive thoughts of like taking their own life, or just thoughts that like don't make sense, myself included. I used to like drive to work every morning and just think, like, as I'm like driving, I'm just like, oh, what if I would like just drive off the side of the road? And I'm just like, what the hell are you thinking? Why are you thinking those things? I mean, I've had friends tell me, oh, yeah, I was like in a hotel room on like the third or fourth floor. And I was like, well, what if I just jumped off? And they're like, that scared the crap out of me. Like, why would I ever think that? And I'm like, this is what hormonal shifts. It's not normal. No, it's not. And that is what you have to understand. These are just not hormones to make us feel young and vibrant and live longer. These affect neurotransmitters in your brain that control how you think, how you feel. It's so important. And those are the things I like to get across. Like, do you have to replace your hormones? No, you do not have to. I say this multiple times a day to my patients. You have a choice. You don't have to replace it. But I'm going to make darn sure that every woman, whichever decision it is that they make, that it is an educated decision. They know the pros, the cons, the risks, the benefits. So that way, whatever decision they make is fine, as long as it's an educated decision based on all of the options and all of the education. Then absolutely, that is fine. I respect that. Kind of recapping this season is stretching me a little bit, but it's also reminding me of my own capacity. This was a really heartfelt episode because perimenopause is who I am right now, and I see it every day. It's real, it's common, it deserves awareness. I want you all to make sure that if you're in the thick of all of this, that reach out. Let me know what you're going through. We'd love to hear. These things are real. You're not alone. Make sure that you share this episode with a friend. Join the conversation this month on social. It's Perimenopause Awareness Month coming up. We're going to leave all the links in the show notes. Make sure that you like, subscribe, leave a review, and follow on all the social platforms. And I want to thank you for being here. Together, we're ending the silence and building a healthier midlife.